Hi everyone, welcome to A Ram's Life. I'm Grace, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about what it's like to go to college out of state. So, I've gotten questions on this before, and I know that Jamie has talked about it a little bit on this channel, but personally for me, I remember when I was applying to colleges, I knew that I wanted to go to school in Colorado. Now, I'm from Virginia, so that's about 1,500 miles away. I remember being super worried about how I was going to be feeling while I was there and about the cost and all of it, so I remember I had a ton of questions. So based on my own personal experience, I am going to be answering some common questions and just talking about what it's like. So for those of you that don't know, I just finished up my first year at Colorado State University, which means I just spent an entire year of college away from home. Obviously, I went home for breaks and stuff, but to be that far away from my family for months at a time was a really weird and new experience for me. It was pretty tricky at first, I'm not gonna lie, and it did take a lot of adjusting, and I remember for a little bit I was worried that I made the wrong decision. I got homesick a lot, and there were some days that I just wanted to go home and I wanted to see my family and my friends. But what I can say is that now that I've adjusted, I honestly think I made the best decision ever by choosing Colorado State University. So the biggest thing that I was worried about was whether or not I was going to get homesick. Before going to college, the farthest away I had gone from home from my family was for like a week-long sleepaway camp. So to think about having to be away from everybody for months at a time was a really scary thought. And to be completely honest, yes, I was really homesick sometimes. It was tough. I'm not gonna lie, it was really tough. I did a video a couple months back talking about homesickness specifically, so if you guys want to check it out, I will link it down in the description below. But yeah, I was really homesick at first, but what I will say though is that it does get easier. This was mostly because I just loved the college that I chose. I'm really grateful that I chose Colorado State University and that I'm a student there, because while I was really homesick, eventually CSU started to feel like a second home for me. The more days that went by, the better I felt, the more friends I made, the more things I did, the more work I put into school, I was feeling better. And of course there were still some days that were tough. Sometimes they just came out of nowhere and I just was super bummed. But the nice thing about the era that we live in right now is that your friends and family are only a text away. What personally helped me is just calling them. I called my parents when I was sad or when I just wanted to talk, and I texted my friends and we did group FaceTimes, and eventually it just started to feel like I didn't have to be around them all the time to be okay. And if and when you go home for breaks, it's just going to be that much more fun to see them. So if you're thinking about going to school out of state, I would definitely take homesickness into consideration. But at the same time, don't count yourself out, because for a little bit I let my fear take over and I almost considered staying home. And what I've learned is that's life. Sometimes you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I'm a big believer in that biggest risks can equal some of the biggest rewards. And for me, I think that was 100% the case. I took a risk, I was very scared about it, but in the end, I'm glad that I did, and it really has been the best decision I've ever made. Another big question that I've heard, and it's one of the concerns that I have, is how am I going to afford to go out of state? It's usually less expensive for you to go to a college in the state that you live in than it is to go out of state. So when I decided I wanted to go to school in Colorado, I was really nervous about how I was going to afford it. And I completely understand that concern. But like I said before, don't always count yourself out. My advice to you is that if you think that you can see yourself at that school, it doesn't hurt to apply. I know that application fees can be kind of expensive, but there are ways around them. So try reaching out to that college, you never know. As far as being able to afford the total cost of attendance, scholarships are huge. First of all, I don't know about other colleges, but at least at Colorado State University, when you apply as an out-of-state student, you are automatically considered for various scholarships. I can afford to go to CSU because I was awarded the Presidential Scholarship. So the Presidential Scholarship gets me $10,000 a year, which I'm lucky enough because that brings the total cost of attendance in Colorado down to what it would be in my home state in Virginia, which is what I can afford. So it's nice, at least at CSU, that you're automatically considered for these scholarships, but there are also other options. You can find outside scholarships from all over the place. And while they may seem small at first, like maybe only $100 for this scholarship and $200 for this, it adds up and it can make a huge difference. It might involve putting in a lot of work, but if you can really see yourself going out of state, it's not impossible. And lastly, I'm just going to talk about a few tips that I would give you guys if you're thinking of going out of state, because I personally have had that experience now that I'm done with my first year. First of all, make friends. That's how you're going to make your new college your second home, is by making friends. I know it can be really scary. Personally, for me, when I went to CSU, I didn't know a single person there. I've never really been a super social person, and so for a little bit it was really uncomfortable having to put myself out there all the time. But it's important to note that whether you're in state or out of state, everybody's in the same boat. Even if you're going to school with other people you knew in high school or in the area, usually campuses are still pretty big and you're not going to have all of your classes with those people and you're not going to live with them forever. So everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's trying to make friends. So definitely use the time that you are there in the beginning to put yourself out there. Like I said, I know that can be uncomfortable. It was pretty uncomfortable for me, but it's a lot of little things. Go to class, ask if you can sit next to somebody, introduce yourself, get to know the people, your roommates, your hallmates, whatever it is. It's going to be uncomfortable for a little bit, but the more friends you make, the more at home you'll feel and the better you can adjust to being out of state. Another thing I would recommend is to tour campuses. If you're thinking about going out of state, do what you can to get yourself out there, because it's not going to be a super fun situation if you like the school because of what you saw online and then you get out there and you don't like it and you feel like you're trapped. In my experience, I applied to 5 Colorado schools, and my dad and I made one big trip of it where we toured all 5 of them in 1 week that we were there. It was actually really fun. We traveled all over the state, and I remember getting to the other campuses and just feeling like, these looked really cool online, but this just doesn't feel right. And then when I stepped on CSU's campus, I kid you not, and I had heard people tell me this before, that like, you'll know it. And I was like, what does that even? But when I got on that campus, I knew it. I knew that that was the place for me, and I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't toured it. All in all, my experience with going to school out of state has been a little bit of a roller coaster. It was pretty difficult in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie. I left everything and everyone that I've ever known here to go to school where I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a single person, and I was scared, and I had to go out of my comfort zone for a little bit, and it was uncomfortable and it was scary, but the longer I stayed there, the more I was like, okay, I'm gonna be okay. I absolutely love the school that I go to, and I'm so happy that I didn't count myself out by not applying because of all these concerns that I had. But like I said before, sometimes going out of state can be tricky, but it's not impossible. Don't count yourself out. Listen to your gut. You'll figure it out. Alright, so that is about all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to A Ram's Life if you haven't already. Down in the description box below, I'm going to link my video to Homesickness, as well as my last video and my other YouTube channel that you can check out too. Alright, thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.